So I just got here to Maryland Live, and I was going to film a really cool intro outside, and then it started pouring rain. So instead, we're going to do it in the car. And I want to take a minute to thank everybody for your views, spending the time to watch my videos, comment, like. Uh, I really appreciate it. It really helps out the channel so I can keep doing this. We're going to try to squeeze in a session before we hit our Northeast road trip. So we're going to be playing at Atlantic City, New York, anywhere we can find a casino while we're on this next trip. Alright, let's go inside and hit the tables. The rain decided to calm down for a minute while we walked inside. I checked in for the 2-5 and there was still quite a wait, so I also jumped on the 1-3 list. I had a random 20 in my wallet and I decided to play the red panda machine outside until they called. Just as we book a win, they throw me on the 1-3. First hand we play is pocket jacks in the big blind. Middle position at the other end of the table raises to 17, 2 callers, folds back to me and I raise to 60. Everybody folds. I show it to build credibility early on. Plus, I don't take 1-3 very seriously, especially buying in for only $200. We're in the big blind again and look down at ace-queen offsuit. Same middle position player leads for $10. Small blind calls, we raise to 35. He says he likes 35 and makes the call.
How much is it? 35. 35. I love 35.
Flop comes queen king 6 rainbow. We check. Same player bets 35. We flat call. Turn is a deuce of clubs. We check, he checks. River another 6. We check, he checks. He flips over ace queen suited and we flip over our hand for the chop. Not very entertaining, but this player was a character. And if you know me, I love playing with these type of players at the table. They make it less monotonous, especially during longer sessions. We fold our small blind, then the dealer is nice enough to give us the button with a beautiful pair of pocket aces. 3 limpers and we raise to 17. 3 players make the call and we go 4 ways to a flop of deuce 4 jack with 2 diamonds. Early position goes for the donk of shame, leading out for $10, and the hijack goes all in for 30. I raise to $80 to make sure the early position player doesn't get a good price to continue, or potentially force him to shove all in. Early position makes the smart laydown, and the small blind shows 5-3 of clubs for the open-ended straight draw. He asks for an ace or a 6 on the turn. The turn comes a 10, the river comes a 6, giving him the straight. They call my name right as the dealer passes back my change. We take our L and head to the 2-5. About the third hand in, we look down at pocket aces for the second time in less than 20 minutes. This time we're under the gun +1 and we open to $25. 2 callers and it folds around to the small blind who raises to 70. It folds back to me and I 4-bet to 225. Back to the small blind and he makes the flat call. Heads up to a flop of 7 deuce 7. Player checks. We down bet to 200, since this board is about as dry as a mouthful of cinnamon. He says,
200.
That's a shame.
And makes the call. The turn comes another 7, and I announce that I'm all in. I'm all in. I got aces.
I had 7 too.
He doesn't show, but I say that I was thinking he must have had kings, or maybe we were chopping with aces. He says he had queens. I was like, should I keep him in, or no? That was a tough decision. The next hand, we're under the gun, and I put out $5 as if I was the big blind. The dealer says I'm not big blind and tells me to pull back my chip. I grab it without thinking, and she deals the cards. The player that just gave us a double up gets upset because I didn't straddle, even though the whole table had agreed. Which is unfortunate because during all the commotion and the dealer saying I wasn't big blind, I totally forgot. I tried to explain it to him, but he wouldn't let it go. During the same commotion, we're dealt 7-8 of diamonds, and I just throw my $5 back out as a limp. We end up going 4 ways to a flop of 6-8-9 with 1 diamond. We bet $15, everyone folds but the big blind. Turn comes a jack of diamonds. We pick up a flush draw with our straight draw, big blind checks. We continue for $30 and he folds. The funny thing about this is the guy got all upset, even though I end up winning the hand, which I would have straddled, so I would have just won more money if I would have straddled. Maybe he wanted to raise my straddle, I'm not sure. The next few hands, we watch him, and his playstyle has completely changed. He's raising very large pre-flop and making some very tilt-driven moves. A few hands go by, and we look down at Ace-Jack, our birthday hand on the button. Ace for 1, or January, Jack for 11, since it's the 11th card in the number sequence. While on our Florida trip, I kept noticing that this hand was very good for me. Even though I would be behind, I would still end up winning by the river, which now makes me much more excited when I see it. Tilty McWhirl goes ahead and raises to $20 in the hijack. Small blind calls, and I call. Everyone else folds. The flop comes Ace 8-10 rainbow, giving us top pair. Small blind checks. I check for deception, hoping the player will tilt off a nice bet. He does bet $90, which is quite large seeing there's not much in the pot. I make the flat call, knowing very well that I have the best hand, but put him on some sort of straight draw or possibly one pair hand, trying to get ace to fold. The turn comes a complete brick, an offsuit deuce. I check, the player immediately goes all in for around $600. I start running through some of the possibilities out loud. It's possible but unlikely he has a set. I think with his tilt mode he would have raised bigger pre-flop and trapped more with such a strong hand by trying to get it all in the river. Since there isn't a straight or a flush out yet, not even a flush draw, I know he doesn't have any sort of combo draw. So, at best, he has an underpair or a straight draw. I decide to lay it down, knowing that he was anywhere around 2 to 8 outs, and all I have is one pair without any redraws or additional equity. I decide not to make the call for 3x the pot, and hopefully let Mick Tilterson calm down. This way he feels like he got the win, and will play more level-headed, allowing me to get a better spot. I lay it down, and he immediately flips over Jack-9 of clubs. He had the open-ended straight draw and 1 over, which means he had 8 outs. I don't regret folding, but it's likely I would have won the hand and stacked him. It does make it feel a bit worse that I folded my birthday hand when I was ahead, but I remind myself that we'll find a better spot. And now we're going to take a brief intermission with a couple of Kit Kats in the small blind. Tilty opens in the low jack for 35. Hijack calls, folds to me, and I put in the raise to 135, hoping to isolate the tilt king. He knows that he hit his limit on withdrawals at the time bank, and both players fold. A few hands go by, and we must be hungry, because we look down at 2 more Kit Kats, this time of the red variety. We open to $30, and unfortunately, everyone likes money too much right now to make the call. Now that we broke off a piece, we get a nice surprise with Ace-Jack of hearts in the hijack. A fairly calm player sitting in under the gun +1 opens for $20. We raise to 45, hoping to isolate him in position. It folds around to the initial raiser, and he 4-bets to 130. I decide to make the flat call in position. The flop comes King, Queen, Jack, Rainbow. Initial raiser checks. We check. Turn comes a 6. He checks, we check. The river comes a 10, giving us the nut straight. He checks, and I figure I'm probably chopping or wouldn't get any value from worse hands, so I check. I turn over my hand and say chop.
Chop.
He shows pocket 9s for the bottom end of the straight. We surprisingly scooped the entire pot and probably missed out on some thin value on the river. This hand is a perfect example why it's not a good idea to 4-bet with a small or middle pair out of position. There's a pretty high chance that your opponent will have overcards since they 3-bet you, and some of those overcards will likely come out on the flop. A few hands later, we get dealt a couple deuces under the gun. I limp for $5, under the gun +1 opens for 25, the button calls, the small blind calls, the big blind folds, and I make the call. We go full ways to a flop of King 10 deuce with 2 clubs. That's right, we have bottom set 4 ways. The small blind checks, and we decide to lead for 75 to make sure any clubs don't get a free card, but hopefully get a call from a king or a pair. It folds to the button. He thinks for a minute, then makes a laydown. Probably misplayed this hand a bit and could have got more value in later streets. I just don't prefer multi-way pots out of position, so I decided to play it strong rather than letting someone catch up and end up losing the maximum. It's getting close to quitting time, and we look down at King, Queen of Hearts in the hijack. 1 limper, and we bump it up to 15, which is slightly on the smaller size, but since McTilty left after getting busted from the player on my left, the table's calmed down quite a bit. 3 players make the call, and we go 4 ways to a flop of Jack 10-7 with 2 hearts. We get a superb flop with an open-ended straight draw, the second nut flush draw, and a backdoor straight flush draw. Under the gun +1 checks, and we bet for $30. Not too big, trying to keep as many players in the hand as possible. It folds around to under the gun +1, and he makes the call. The turn comes at 3 of clubs, which doesn't change much. Under the gun +1 checks, I bet 65.
65.
He makes the call. The river comes a great card, which is the 9 of spades, giving us the absolute best hand possible. Under the gun +1 pauses for a bit and bets 205. I take my time and try to think of optimal sizing that could get it called by sets or 8s for the lower straight. I land on 500, thinking it's slightly less than the pot and shouldn't blow him off an okay hand. He tanks for a long time. Eventually he eliminates all the possible hands I could have to only King Queen. He thinks it's unlikely that I actually have King Queen, and he ends up making the call.
I got the nuts.
He shows Jack 8 of clubs for the lower straight. I show my hand, and we take down a decent sized pot to cap off the evening. I rack up and head to the cage. We bought in for $700, including the 1-3 game, and we cashed out for $23.30, booking a total profit of $1,630.
Thank you. You too.
All right, everybody, we just finished our 2-5 session at Maryland Live, and we had a great session. Bought in for $700, cashed out for $23.30. So all in all, we had a lot of wins, a couple opportunities. Can't wait to go over them with you guys. All right. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for more great and even not so great sessions to come. I still have a ton of footage to catch up on from Florida, and also I'm compiling even more footage from this Northeast trip that I'm on right now. So look out for those episodes in the future. Alright, thanks for watching everyone, and good luck out there.